Good morning and happy Friday to another episode of Cater Caffeine. Super excited to be here with you this morning. Hope you have your coffee like I do. This was a very long couple weeks with Super Bowl in town, and we had an event at Pier 29, which I'll talk about a little later. So I am on like 14 days straight of no day off. So if this doesn't come off right, I apologize ahead of time, but we're excited. I'm going to give it just a moment to let people jump in, and then we'll get going. All right. So what is Cater Caffeine? Very simply, it's a place where we come and we talk about ideas to grow both our catering programs, but ourselves as individuals. I shared either last episode or the episode before that I wish I knew earlier in my career that I wasn't just building the brand I was supporting, that I was also building my brand. That people I would work with at Noah's Bagels 15, 16 years ago would then follow me to Le Boulanger and help me have record breaking sales there. And those people would follow me to Wise Sons and would order with me at a third organization. And then those people would follow me to Talkalicious and place orders there. And yes, the food that I sell has always been quality and that helps. But it's also the fact that I try to treat people well and I try to treat them the way I want to be treated. And if I make a mistake, I say, hey, we made a mistake and we're honest. All that matters. So I want to just remind everybody that how we treat people matters. So Cater Caffeine is a place where I can come and I can share those experiences and the things that I've learned, some things the hard way. Because I've shared once again that early in my career I was not the nicest person to people. Not that I was a jerk, but I just wasn't mature enough to realize that the people that I was working with were just as important, if not more important, than my customers. So Cater Caffeine, place to come and to enjoy some coffee and to get some tips and tricks to grow your brand and yourself. So who am I? I've been in this industry a long time. I started off back in 2006 where I took a job with Noah's Bagels as a delivery driver. And 6 months later, I would get promoted to a sales manager overseeing 6 stores in the Bay Area. I had no idea what I was doing. I asked for a guide or a playbook, and I was given a menu and told to go sell catering. Through 8 years there, I was able to oversee Washington, Oregon, Northern California, 55 locations. I had over 100 people reporting to me at the age of 25, which was crazy and is crazy to think about now. But I had to learn, and I went on to get my master's degree while I was going to school. That helped me organize things. I'd had my own catering company for a while to help pay my way through college. So I used some of that entrepreneurial energy. And once again, I just tried to treat people the way I wanted to be treated. And I realized that our turnover for our drivers was extremely low, whereas other parts of the country had high turnover. So there were things I started sharing with other sales managers, things that they started doing with their team that helped. One of those things was 10-minute conversations. As much work as it was, I sat down each month for 10 minutes with each person, virtually or in person, just to talk about where they were, how things were going. It was 10 simple questions. We each marked if they had got that thing or not. And at the end, we made sure that people knew where they stood. So there was no guessing. And the people that we did have to let go eventually, they were appreciative for the consideration of how much leeway we gave them. So that's the way I try to operate when it comes to catering and the people around me. I went on from Noah's Bagels to be a director both with Le Boulanger and Wise Sons and Talkalicious. I've catered Super Bowls, US Opens at Pebble Beach. I won an award from the National Restaurant Association for leadership in the restaurants and in the community. So a lot of this stuff isn't stuff that I've just Googled and I'm putting on a slide. It's stuff that I've lived and I've breathed and I'm bringing to you. This will take you to a sample sales playbook. This is what we built this whole series around. We started it last year. I think we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of Cater Caffeine next month, which is very exciting. Feel free to look at this. There's lots of resources and tools and outlines and guides. You can even just feed this into an AI system and say, hey, take the sales playbook. This is the name of my organization. Tailor it for what you know about me. And it should spit out a playbook that is somewhat workable. And then you can make edits. It's a living document, so it's never going to be perfect. There's always something that I'm adding or changing, which may sound exhausting, but you do want to make sure you're keeping things up to date. A quick recaps of previous episodes. So if you do want to go back and find something, We talked about different contact types and the playbook itself. Are you reaching out to your first time orders? Are you reaching out to your prior orders to see if you can get that business back? Are you checking in with lapsed users? Maybe you had someone that used to be 5% of your sales and now they're not ordering. Where are they? Why aren't they ordering? I found sometimes it's just that they've moved to a different company. So I'm looking for the new contact at company A, but I'm also looking the person up on LinkedIn. Where are they? Can I get their email address? Can I shoot them a menu? We've supported you the last couple of years. Can we keep it going? I've had so many opportunities where I started working with a new company while being able to retain the previous company simply because I'm paying attention and going through those motions. Do you know what your ideal customer profile is? Who are you targeting? How much do they spend? What kind of company is it typically? For me, one of the industries I know some of my colleagues will target, they'll go after um, mortuaries and memorial services, and that's not something we go after. We get some of that business and we do the best to be respectful through it, but it's not a target customer of mine. Whereas some of my colleagues have whole packets for mortuaries that can be given to families who just lost someone or are going through that process. And it's a smart idea, but it's not part of my ideal customer profile. So who are you truly targeting? Doesn't mean you won't work with other people. You won't get business that's outside of the bell curve. But who is your specific customer that makes up the bulk of your business? And as you're selling, are you going after that person? You may be surprised. Do you have dedicated time to selling? Block your calendar. Do not change those blocks for anything short of an absolute emergency. Unless a building is on fire or someone is injured, you have to stick to your selling time. And you need to find yourself an organization where if you block something on a calendar, your supervisor or direct report will respect that. I had a time where no matter what I blocked on my calendar, they would schedule meetings or they would ask if we can talk. And it was very frustrating because, yes, I have to sell internally, but at the end of the day, if we're not bringing in money, what we do is question, and we may have to find a new place to do what we're doing. So make sure you have dedicated time to selling. Have you done competitive research? Have you looked at those around you to figure out what they're charging for delivery fee, what their menu is? Pre-pandemic, I was with an organization where it was sandwiches and salads and deli items. And all the time we were told that, well, Specialties Cafe, they're cheaper than you because of XYZ. Because I had done my research, because that research was literally up in the wall in the call center we had, we could respond and say, oh, yeah, we order from Specialties occasionally too. And although you're right that their delivery fee is a little bit cheaper, their box lunches are $2 per person more. If you're ordering more than 5 box lunches, we're actually going to be a cheaper option because our delivery fee doesn't scale. And it was a very simple rebuttal, but it was based on facts. It wasn't based on emotions. We weren't trying to put them down. We actually enjoyed our specialty sandwich occasionally. But you have to be able to speak intelligently. Some people go straight to, oh, well, we can discount to match the price. You don't have to undercut your value. You just have to know what others are doing and be able to speak intelligently. Do you have a sales process for your first time orders? For me, I'm trying to reach out within a few days to say thank you, understand who they are. Is there more business to be had? When's their next order so I can go after it? But then I'm reaching out to them after a month. It's called my first time order 1 month later. I'm checking in. I'm trying to nudge them towards the next order, trying to see what I can do to help. It's much easier to get someone who's already ordered and knows you and is hopefully happy to order again than to reach out to someone absolutely cold and convince them to place an order. And then after that 1 month later, I'll nudge again maybe a month later just to see if I can keep things going. And then from there, I'll set a future task depending on the organization, the industry, and how much they spent. There's some factors that go into it. But at the end of the day, you just want to make sure you're staying connected to those first time orders. We did a whole series on that. Feel free to go back and find that on YouTube. Talked about managing slower times. For a lot of us, January, February may not be the busiest of times. Thankfully, my team has been able to hit our targets. Super Bowl was a huge help. Otherwise, I'm not sure where I'd be. But we did a whole session on things you can do when things slow down. Feel free to go back and peek at that. When we got to the beginning of Q4, we talked about Q4 and hyper-focusing on that final quarter and getting the most out of it. Yeah, we talked about planning for 2026. I think that was a really good session to set you up for success. these are things that we've covered so far. For today, something that's come up for me over the past few weeks, I want to continue to remind those that watch and listen and enjoy the episodes that we're not just selling externally, that we are selling internally, and sometimes more than we're selling to customers. We're not just selling to customers, we're selling to operations, we're selling to marketing, we're selling to store managers, we're selling to assistant managers, we're selling to the people above us. I've had organizations where I've been invited to board meetings, so now I'm selling to a board of directors and having to remember that this board sits on or work for many different organizations. So now I'm potentially talking about my future and how I represent myself. All that to say, I wouldn't have been able to pull off the event we had at Pier 29 if everybody wasn't working together, if leadership wasn't invested. I wasn't able to make some of the walkthroughs, so I had to have my operations team. My executive chef went and actually did the walkthrough for us to understand where we were setting up and how things would look. It takes a community, and I want to today just focus on our internal communication, what we're doing to get our team excited, to get our team bought in. I shared a couple sessions ago, we had this whole plan one year where everybody was involved in helping build it out, and we celebrated it at the end. And people were so excited that following year to see what we were going to do that you could hear a pin drop when I was doing my presentation for the following year. And I want you to have that level of amazingness, if I might, with your team. Let's see if I can find my mouse. There we go. At the end of the day, you have to have departments that are aligned. Your events department is usually going to manage communication with the customers, but then you're going to have an operations team that should be managing expectations at that level. But sometimes you're going to get involved and help with training. For us, we have a very specific system for how orders are processed. If I take an order today that's for this weekend, I'm going to send it to you. But if I have an order for Monday through Sunday next week, I expect the stores are going to check those orders on Friday afternoon, print everything out, start building their kitchen sheets so they know what they're making. I'm not going to send an order to you for Tuesday today because you're going to check all that later today. Well, if you get someone new who doesn't know that and they're expecting you to send them stuff daily and they're not checking the system, conflicts arise when training and expectations aren't clear. So one of the things that I'm very proud of is each week we sit down as a team and we're very transparent and open about where things are and how things are going. Yesterday, I called out our marketing team because we haven't had a catering email blast in maybe 2 months. And in their minds, while they're waiting for pictures and other things, which I appreciate, but in my mind, we're losing money. There's an opportunity cost for not sending out communication about events. And we can even track back how much money we typically make per email blast. So in my mind, there's probably $10,000 in sales I don't have because we didn't send out our new menu, because we didn't promote salads for January, because it's the healthier option and that's what people are looking for that month. Because people aren't drinking in January. We have all these NA beverages that we could have sent out that are really good mocktails. So you have to make sure you're communicating. You can't shy away from that communication. You have to remember it's an internal customer. So talk to them the way you would or better than one of your external customers. Because the same person I'm telling, hey, I don't think you're doing your job yesterday, is someone that I need to do a really good job for me next week. So you need to be respectful and kind and pay attention to those things. But you also have to have an environment where it's safe to say, hey, I don't see this happening. What can I do to get it done? The thing that I tell my teams all the time, I only get quiet or I only get nervous if you get quiet. If there's communication, even if there's friction sometimes, we're probably getting things done. But if people get quiet, if people are afraid to talk, I would look at the culture you built around yourself and the process for communication, because something's probably off. You don't want to be in a meeting where everybody's quiet. That's not a good thing. Because at that point, there's assumptions. And when there's assumptions, I found that there are typically a lot of mistakes. Check to see here. Peek in our chat real quick. Bear with me. All right. So like I said, internal communication is huge. We talked about a sales plan earlier this year. How many of us have taken that sales plan and really sold it to the teams inside the organization? If I were to reach out to your general managers right now and say, hey, what is this person working on? What are the goals for the year? How are you doing towards your targets? Are they aware of those? In the Tuesday meetings I have, this week it was Thursday, I have an agenda that I go through and I share that ahead of time. Everybody knows what we're going to talk about, so there's no surprises. I'm not trying to catch anybody off guard. One of the things that I have are my sales through the end of period 2, which is the end of next week. I show what each week is. I don't try to hide or sugarcoat anything. I'm tracking our year-to-date results. So I knew yesterday I needed $1,233 to hit our target through the end of P2. Well, I still have a whole week left, so that's really good. So it's reason to celebrate. You want to make sure that you're communicating as much as possible. Last session, I shared and I stick behind it. You need to answer questions before anybody even asks. That's where a scorecard comes in or something visual where maybe it's a Friday communication where here's what we did this week. Here's what I'm looking to do next week. Here are the larger orders that are coming up. Please be ready for those. Over communicate to a point where people say, I've got it, I appreciate it, we're good. You never want to get to a point where people are asking questions and not sure what's going on. Each customer to me right now is still so valuable. I don't have the number in front of me, so I don't want to misspeak. I think we have more orders right now than we did last year, but I need to double check. But there are stretches right now our order counts go down, and one order can be the difference between us hitting our goal or not. Do you know what marketing's working on right now? Does marketing know what you need them to work on right now? Again, is that communication being made clear? I have a list of events and things that I want to target for the year that I thought everybody knew, but it's something I'm going to bring to the table next week. Here's what we should be focusing on. Do we have a graduation email blast queued up? I know it's early, but let's get it done. The holidays are huge for us. We have to have a couple things queued up for that. July is really slow for us, but June is amazing with graduation parties. Just make sure you're talking all that out. Everybody's on the same page. Having a great vision is important. Having a quality plan is vital, but selling that vision is a skill that I didn't use until I was in the industry. It's probably my 10th year that I really took the sales plan that I'd been making all along and scribbling and kind of hiding and really gave it to everybody. We had walls in our office where I had our goals. It was so silly, but we had these balloons. And if we had a good week, we put up a balloon. If we had a record breaking week, it was a different thing. If we had exceeded an expectation in terms of the number of code greens, which are positive experiences, it was so visual and everybody in the office had to walk by it. I purposely put it outside of our CEO's office so they had to see it every single day. We ran out of cubicle space one year and it was this very exciting. People were excited to come into work. I had staff meetings on Tuesday mornings and people were there smiling at 7:15 a.m. ready to go and to talk about what we were doing. But that also involved empowering the team to a point where I don't want you to come to me if you need to do a discount for someone. If they meet these 3 criteria, we've written them all down. It's in the little book that's by your desk. Do it. If it's a school, if it's a nonprofit, take care of them. If the order is over X amount of dollars, feel free to waive the delivery fee. Don't just give away things to do it, but you have to empower your team. So what is the vision that you have? What is your sales plan? Break that down, share it with anybody who has ears within your organization. You want to share this thing so much that you can say it verbatim if you need to. But really, the excitement comes from having that vision sold internally to a point where people are excited and ready to go. Once again, catering is work. It is not easy. There are going to be times where people just aren't feeling it, and that's fine. As a sales professional, there are days where I'm in bed and I'm like, oh, here we go. But I truly enjoy what I do. And if that can shine through how you sell your plan and how you communicate with people, you'll end up in a good spot. Through that communication, it is your job, once again, selling externally, selling internally, You have to create an environment where people feel safe and comfortable and they want to be successful. Part of that involves the team that you choose. We just onboarded 3 new people. I felt very good about them. They went through the training, they got signed off on. Unfortunately, one of those individuals showed up yesterday very drunk to a shift where they should have driven a vehicle. Not a great call to get when you're on BART heading back to your home and don't have access to your computer and there's not much you can do. Um, be very mindful in who you select for your team. We went through all the steps, we vetted them. Sometimes things are going to happen, and that's life. Um, but you have to create an environment where people want to win and people feel safe. And part of that for me is giving credit, and not just giving credit, but giving credit publicly. My team has a Slack channel. So as shifts become available, as the schedule is done for next week, I share that all on Slack. So it's not tons of emails and text messages. If someone needs to switch a schedule shift, it's all within that system. Every single time I get a positive note for someone, I put it up there. And not just someone saying, hey, food was great, thanks for the order. But if someone mentions the server by name, if someone goes on and on about the setup or the quality or the service, because we do full service, all those right away, I log it in our system and I share it within the Slack platform. I need people to know that I'm seeing the positives because I do. And I relish those because that's a much easier person to get to repeat their order later or to ask if they have any colleagues who may need catering or to let them know, hey, we have a referral program. I can give you a gift card if you give me a contact. I want to make sure I'm capitalizing on all that with those. But also, if I have a server who's doing a great job, I want them to know maybe there's something I see that they can work on. I had, once again, I'm in the storage yesterday and the server comes in for a full service shift and they're wearing jeans. For full service shift, it's black pants, black shirt. So although I'm calling out good things for them, I'm going to remind them later today, hey, you weren't in our uniform and I appreciate all the good things you do. You see me posting about them constantly, but you have to be in your proper uniform. We have new people who are training that I'm setting expectations for, but also the customer has a certain expectation of how we're going to arrive and look, and I need you to meet that. I think by sharing as much good as possible and also being deliberate or direct with the criticism or the negative feedback, if you will, um, they're hard conversations to have. But what I want you to do is to remember early in your career and think about things that you may not have done correctly. And wouldn't you have wanted someone to respectfully come to you and say, hey, I see this. It's not putting you in the best light or it's taking away from other things you're doing. I think it's something you should adjust. That way we can focus on all the amazing things you're doing. I know I personally would have appreciated that. In addition to sharing those wins with my team, I also send them out to the organization as a whole. Uh, it's silly, but the stores are responsible for ringing up their orders. I have to go in and double check that those orders all match up. Occasionally, someone misses a dining option or misses a discount. It's not the end of the world. But during one of the busiest weeks we've had in a while, the Super Bowl week, one of the stores, every single order was rung up correctly. It was on time. I sent out a note to the store manager, to the assistant manager, to the kitchen manager. I made sure to CC the partners and just a quick thank you. I know that I'm sending emails weeks where it's not done right, pointing out all the little things I need fixed. You guys did it this week. Thank you. End of story. That's it. Make sure you're balancing it out so that it's not just, oh, Jerome saying another message. What do we do now? You want to make sure you're communicating the wins and the losses. This is Pier 29. I shared that we had a Super Bowl event. I'm very proud to say that I catered both for Super Bowl 50 and now Super Bowl 60, both in the Bay Area. So that's another balloon on my wall, if you will. This event was put on by FanDuel and Spotify. There were no photos allowed inside. It was very secretive, but some really cool bands played there. My team handed out, I think, 1,400 tacos over the course of a few hours. But once again, it wasn't just me. Like, it took me being on the phone with this individual multiple times to lock in this order. I want to say that when all was said and done, it was probably a $14,000 event, which was a very simple event for what it was. Our kitchen manager had to go do the walkthrough for me to understand where we were setting up. I have a lead server who was involved in making sure equipment was packed and that we had It was a little bit outside of what our typical setup was, but we made sure we had all the equipment. The operations team got involved because there was some stuff we needed. They ended up ordering for us. That was a little. It can't just be you and a catering menu and your will to succeed. You have to have a full team around you, ready to support you, ready to do the things that are necessary for you to win as an organization. Yesterday, the owner of the company had to take that delivery because the driver showed up under the influence, and uh, poor guy was in a pair of shorts because he didn't think he was doing a delivery yesterday, and I'm sure it wasn't the smoothest delivery experience for our customer, but we did what we needed to do because everybody supports everybody to make sure that food got out because it was a huge order, and we couldn't let one hiccup prevent what we were trying to get done. Once again, things are going to come up. It can't just be you against the world. You have to have your team. You have to have everybody aligned with what you want to accomplish and how you want to accomplish it. And when you can pull that off, man, some amazing things can happen. I have had teams with supervisors where my hand would literally shake when they would call. And I have had teams with supervisors who I would literally walk through a wall for. It seems silly, but the way you communicate, how you talk to people, the plan you have, you sharing your shortcomings, which is something we didn't talk about through all this communication. I am a team of one right now. I used to have a couple of sales managers, but we did some restructuring. I have a couple admins that do some work for me each week, but every event, every order processed, every credit card charged, the easy caters that come in that need to be transcribed into the system, all the calls with customers about weddings and bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, all that stuff's going through one place right now. And it can be a lot. There are many instances I could share with you over the past couple months where I've inverted something or an address wasn't quite right, or maybe a phone number wasn't where it needed to be. And rather than make excuses or to get upset about it, I apologize and we fix it. And the team has been amazing. I don't think any of that has impacted our customers. But likewise, we have servers that sometimes they won't ring up something quite right, or they forgot a simple thing. And yes, we have checklists, but we're human. We're all trying to get through the days the best we can. And by being kind and compassionate to others, they've been showing that to me as well, which is very, very much appreciated. You want to make sure that you're treating people well. I know I keep saying it, but it's what my award-winning career has been built on. Not just me being decent at sales and being able to sell tacos and sandwiches and salads, but it's really been the people around me and being lucky, but also cultivating. Because, like I said, we had a situation yesterday when I have to do a termination today, and someone that I thought was going to do a really good job for us, and now I have a hole that I have to fill. And but just make sure through all the chaos that you're taking the time to communicate the positive, to support your team wherever you can, to bend where you can. I had some people this week that had to change schedules last minute, and yes, it created a little friction. But also, I know in the future, if I reach out to them last minute, they're going to remember I took care of them. They'll take care of me. So, in summary, communication good, having a vision good, having people aligned to your vision very good, making sure everybody's on the same page, very important, making sure you're communicating internally with different aspects of the organization, your marketing team, your operations team, your culinary team. You got to make sure everybody's on the same page or things go south quick. Be prepared to be kind to others when there are missteps because not everything is going to go to plan. Be very honest and transparent when things on your end don't go the way you would like them. We signed a contract inadvertently a little while back where we are committed to a process that I do not want to be committed to until November. And I had to share that in a meeting recently, and I thought people would be upset, and people were kind and compassionate about it, which was very much appreciated. That will do it for this episode of Cater Caffeine. Unless there are any questions, I'll give a moment to see if anything pops up. Otherwise, get out there, sell your heart out, make sure you're selling internally, make sure you're hitting all your notes with your sales activity, you're blocking your time, being respectful of your calendar, because I live by mine right now. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't get done. So as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to click out. I'm going to go to my calendar. I'm going to review what has or what's coming up for the day, and I'm going to stick to it because it's the only way I will survive. Next month, we'll probably talk about leadership and really figuring out who you want to be in the space. Quick story. When I left Noah's Bagels after almost 8 years, there were some things I was doing really well. I had always hit my sales targets over that time, which is pretty incredible. But there were times, as I shared, that I wasn't as kind and compassionate to others as I wanted to be. Some of that was I had supervisors that I don't know who hurt them, but it felt like they took it out on others. Some of my supervisors were amazing. And I realized that I could decide the type of leader I was, that nobody at the new company knew me, they knew anything about me. And not that I could go in and be something I wasn't, but I could go in and be the thing that I always thought I was. I literally wrote down a list of attributes or things that I liked in other leaders. And I wrote down a list of things that I never wanted to be as a leader. I never wanted to yell or talk down to someone at work. These are human beings. They're getting paid to do a job. They're not my servants. They're not people I should be disrespecting. And it was at that point many years ago that I decided internal customers are more important than external customers. I'll probably share the story in the next session. But I had a customer that made a couple of my coordinators cry, like literally belittled them to a point where they cried. And I remember the call where I got on the phone. I was like, I appreciate your business. I get that you're frustrated, but we don't want to work with you. I'll refund your money. Like, we're done here. I don't talk to them like that. You're not going to talk to them like that. The CEO of the company got an email from that customer, and I wish I had it because people say I'm making the story up, but it's not my style if you know me. And the email went through the fact that the customer felt very disrespected. I'm a pharmaceutical rep. I order tons of food. I've never been talked to like this. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. But then at the bottom of the email, she said, although I'm angry, I do appreciate the fact that he stood up for his team, in the way that he did. The customer, ironically, ended up ordering 6 months later and became a really good customer for us. She apologized. We were able to work through it. But through all that, I got to decide the type of leader I wanted to be. And it wasn't always easy. There were frustrating moments for me as I felt like I was bending maybe more than anybody had ever bent for me as an employee. But as I'll share next time, and we'll build out a framework for, you really do get to decide the type of leader you're going to be. So we'll talk through that. Let's see, a couple questions here. How do you communicate the opportunity cost of lost selling time to leadership? That is a really good question. And it's fairly easy to calculate. For me, I task every single call that I make. And when an order comes in from a call, I'll actually task that as well. So I can go back and look at the number of contacts I made, and I can look at the number of orders that came in. And it's not the best way to do it, but if you divide the number of contacts versus the amount that you brought in, you can get a cost, or you can get how much you sell per hour. For a while, it was a few $100 because we were working with some larger customers. So I could even tell the CEO at the time who I reported directly to, like, I have this time blocked. If we need to pull it, we can. My preference would be not to, but there's probably $1,200 that we're leaving on the table. And in some cases, it was because there were labor unions involved and our production plant was going to get shut down. And that's a good reason to move your selling time. But just because they scheduled a meeting where we're going to talk about a thing that's not important, once again, you have to be respectful of those who are above you and those who sign your paycheck. But it is important to be able to communicate what that cost is in an articulate manner. How did those 10-minute monthly conversations reduce turnover? Oh, I wish I had a copy of this in front of me. It was simple stuff like, are you on time, in uniform? oh gosh, what was it? On time, uniform, communication internally, because we would check with managers to see how they were doing. Code reds, code greens, so were they mentioned in a positive or negative note? It was very simple, straightforward, because the goal was we really wanted to be able to get through it in 10 minutes or less. And I think it was more just sitting down with the individual and saying, hey, I see you. Hey, I appreciate you. I think most of us have been in a role where we will do tons of work and feel like we're not getting that appreciation. I think it was just the fact that we're making time to do this was almost more important than the questions we were asking. And sometimes we didn't even have this paper. Sometimes it really was just sitting down for 10 minutes and having a cup of coffee and checking in. And you learn that, some people share, and that's okay, that some people were in school and maybe that's why they were a little late to shifts that started earlier. So now you can start scheduling them a little bit later, because why would you set them up to fail? You would find out that people were having a tough time at home, and although work shouldn't come into your life and life shouldn't go into your work, they do all the time. And by knowing that, maybe you do an extra check-in the next morning when you see them. Maybe showing a little compassion and that you see they're a person with feelings and emotions can go a long way. So I think it was more about the connection and just making that time for people that developed into that safe space, into that open communication, to where I would ask them during these, is there anything I can do to support you better? And nobody ever had an answer early on, but as we got into it more, there were little things that we could do better or communicate differently that would go a long way. Um, we've talked about selling externally and internally. How do you sell a sales plan to your own team? The easiest way to sell a sales plan to your own team is to have them involved in developing it. Um, a few months before the end of a year, I'll start asking people on my team, hey, based on what we did this year, what do you see next year? What are things you'd like to work on? What are some things that if I said, hey, we're going to focus on this, you'd be like, ooh, I don't think that's a good idea. Whereas what are some things that if I said, hey, we're going to focus on this, would you be excited? Not everything's going to get in there. Not everything's going to go their way. But everybody on your team has different priorities. And just because something is a great idea for me doesn't mean it's a great idea for everybody else. The other part of this is if you don't have a mission and a vision statement for your team, not the organization, for your specific department, because it can be different, I would develop one with your team and make sure every decision, every goal, every target is being bounced off of those mission and vision statements. If you're doing something and it doesn't align with your vision, why are you doing it? Does it help you get to something else that gets towards that vision? Amazing. But if you're doing something just to do it, that becomes problematic. So through those lenses of people helping build the plan, through allowing them to be a part of that process, and to having those vision statements where they know if I'm making a decision that I know what our goals are, I know what our overall vision is, and I'm heading towards that, usually puts you in a good place. How can catering professionals protect their value while still staying flexible? Yeah, early in my career, I was all about discounts and just giving away food. And I'll never forget one of my early supervisors was an indirect supervisor. He oversaw the stores, whereas I was the salesperson. I went to him to get approval for a discount, and he goes, when I go to the gas station, they don't give me a discount. When I go to order, or when I go to buy food at the grocery store, I don't get a discount. When I go to buy clothes, I can't ask for a discount. So why do people feel like they can ask for a discount with food? And it's something that's always stuck with me. I'm not sure why people feel more comfortable, once again, outside of schools and nonprofits who, I will always give a discount to an elementary school if they're ordering for the teacher. It can be easy to want a discount, but I think understanding your value and your brand and what you're doing, um, it helps you to not be so quick to discount. Make sure if people are comparing you to someone else that it's apples to apples. The example I shared earlier where people would say, hey, it's actually cheaper over here. Well, it wasn't. It may seem like it was, but it wasn't. I've also had people compare packages from one company to packages we were doing. And yeah, the package over there is cheaper because we're doing sandwich and salad and chips and cookies and beverages, but the package you're looking at is just sandwich and salad and chips. So yeah, the package with three less items is going to be cheaper than what we're doing. if you don't want the full package over here, we can break it down and then it's going to be the same cost. Recently, one of the things that I've done, instead of discounting, I'll let people know what we can pull out of what we're doing to get them to their price. So if they have a budget of $2,000 and we're at $2,400, hey, typically with our taco bar, we do all these items. But if you have that budget, we can pull out a couple of the salsas and we can pull out this and that. Well, nobody wants an incomplete solution. So then they realize, okay, well, actually, let's just stick with it. I have a little bit more money in my budget. So it's the way you communicate and the way you look at it. Don't be so quick to discount. There are going to be huge orders sometimes where discount might be necessary to lock things in, and that can be okay, but it can't be our first thought. What does owning your calendar actually look like in practice? Make sure you're putting things on there right away. And I don't have it open, or I would share it. On my calendar today, I have 6 things that came out of a meeting yesterday. One of those, we're going to change our payment processor for catering so that it goes into a different account. We're going to look at doing a catering operations lead who will help with large events for my department, but we'll also do some work with the operations team for festivals and other things that we do. So I have a 30-minute block for that. And if it's not on my calendar, it won't get done. Everybody in the organization knows that. So I block those off today. And as I get off of this call and go through those, I'm going to start checking things off. So not only do I use my calendar to block time and to make sure that people can see what I'm selling, but I also use it as a way to remind myself of tasks. I used to have tasks in different places, but now it's in our CRM if it's a sales call, or if it's a major project, it's on my calendar. Part of that is mentally knowing when you're going to do things. I know that I do prior order contacts on Mondays and Thursdays typically. So on Monday afternoon, I'll have a 2-hour block, and on Thursday morning, I'll have a 2-hour block. So if I reach out to someone on Monday afternoon, hey, I see you had an order last year. We want to work with you again. What can I do to help? Maybe it's a voicemail. So on Thursday, now I'm going to send an email follow-up. Sorry, I missed you the other day. Want to check in. What can I do to help? So as I set my future task, I know that I'm doing that Thursday morning. So I'm setting that future task for Thursday. I think some sales professionals are a little all over the place, and they just set reminders for whenever. And then they get to a day where they have first-time orders and prior orders and lapsed users, and they're jumping all over the place. Where if we look at my task for Monday afternoon, it's all going to be prior year orders. So not only is it claiming time on my calendar and sticking with it, but it's trying to combine those activities so that I can crank out the same call over and over again. And I'm not having to shift gears multiple times when I'm reaching out to people. Yeah, deciding who belongs on the team can be tough. I have some people on my team right now who are phenomenal, and I would take them anywhere. I have a couple people, as I shared, someone who's been here a while, just not in uniform yesterday, and maybe I talked with them and weird confluence of things where laundry wasn't, like, stuff happens, we're humans. But I would expect someone who has been here that long to set the example and to be on it. It can be tough, but what I live by is asking myself, is this person someone I would bet my career on? Because the individual yesterday, had the owners not been at the store, had they not caught this person clearly under the influence of something, they would have gotten in a vehicle and they may have driven. And who knows what would have happened. And at the end of the day, that's on no one but me. The fact that I could potentially lose my job because someone's actions, I like feeding my kids and my family and taking care of myself. So to that end, it may seem a little harsh, but you have to be deliberate and discerning. You are going to get burned sometimes, no matter how good you are. I have interviewed literally thousands of people. I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character, but every now and then someone is going to slip through and be really good at interviewing and get through the process and fake it through training. And then when it counts, not show up the way you need them to show up. I coach AAU basketball. We work with 12 and 13-year-olds. They're very emotional. Sometimes they get down on themselves, but we remind them it's on to the next play. You can't keep focusing on the play behind you when you still have 40 minutes on the clock to play the game. So it's the same thing with hiring. You're going to get burned. Things aren't going to always go your way. You just have to keep moving forward and don't let things go. as I shared earlier, communicate the good things, talk about the positives. But if you see something that's not going well, call it out. Because the uniform that I need to correct, maybe that's the first step. And if I let that go, now they're showing up late. And now this whole problem gets created because maybe there was one thing that I could have called out early on. What separates a decent catering sales professional from someone who builds an award-winning career? A lot of patience and a lot of personal development. I have gotten some training from companies I work with, but a lot of what I've learned and gleaned has been networking with other sales professionals, attending tons of conferences. I speak on the side, and in developing some of those talks, I've had to do a lot of research, which has empowered me and shown me different ways to do things. You have to want more at the end of the day. And if you want more, especially with everything we have today between ChatGPT and all the podcasts, there's almost too much information out there. But you should want to learn as much as possible. So no matter what is thrown at you, you can take it on. And that's one of the reasons that I was able to jump from director to vice president of sales at Le Boulanger in just 3 years. Because no matter what they threw at me, if it was taking on more responsibility, if it was taking on their wholesale department, which I did, and then grew that, which hadn't been done in a few years, you just have to be ready. Looking back, what leadership habit had the biggest impact on your success? I think it was being transparent and just explaining what was happening as it was happening. I never want my team to guess what I'm trying to say. So part of that was just creating that environment where people could call me out in a meeting. Do it respectfully, but if I'm doing something or saying something that doesn't come off the right way, I need you to let me know. And I shared this in a previous session. I give the same speech to everybody I start supporting who's at a manager level or higher. Roughly, it's my job to support you personally and professionally. How much of your personal life is up to you, but I know what happens at home will come into work, and what happens at work will go home. I never want you shaking your fist at work or at home or like yelling about me at the dining room table. So if I say something that comes off wrong, or if I do something that comes off weird, let me know. Open door policy. Like, it's my goal to grow your personal development because I didn't always have that. So if you have a list of things you're working on, let me know. And in doing that same talk with everyone and genuinely meaning it, when I took over wholesale at Le Boulanger, they had been down double digits in wholesale for a while. The 2 account reps, I asked them, like, what can I do? Like, this is new for me too, so what can I do? They didn't have sell sheets. They didn't have a playbook. They had very few resources. There were conflicts with the operations team in the back that was making the food where there were simple requests that they just weren't honoring. I just had to provide resources to get the hell out of their way. I didn't even do anything differently for them. They were doing the same job. They just had really nice, colorful flyers that they could hand out now. And they had a process where in the past to onboard a customer was taking them 2.5 weeks. We had the resources to get it done. We were using Monkey Media for our wholesale division at that time. It didn't take that long to set up a new account. So I took on that role. And when they brought someone else in, I had it done in less than 24 hours. They were getting people onboarded quicker, which was great because there were people who would commit, but we couldn't get them their first delivery for 3 weeks. But now we were getting them their first delivery in 3 days. So some of these people that they would lock in who would leave, we locked in and we delivered and we started growing. So it's walking the talk and making sure that you give people space to be humans and fix things as quick as you can. I really just try to give people what I wish I had the best way I could. It looks like that will do it. Thank you for those who tuned in. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. I hope you have an amazing Friday, and I will see y'all next month.